Hello friends, this session focuses on professional ethics, which is a very significant and often underrated area in professional skill development. In this session, we are going to look at the following: the etymology of ethics, some universal principles of ethics, professional ethics for teachers, code of ethic and code of conduct, instances or examples of violations of ethical code and ethical conduct. So let's first look at the etymology of the word ethics. Ethics originates from the Greek word ethos or ethikos. That means the science of morals. Ethics refer more to a conceptual framework of right and wrong as a theoretical manifestation which can determine and define real-life actions and interactions. Before we go to specificities of professional ethics in the academic world, we must first understand some ethical principles that are universal in nature and cut across realms and spheres. So before I present my list to you, why don't you brainstorm a few concepts or elements that you would regard as coming under the purview of professional ethics? I'll give you a minute to think. Let's see if what we have identified match with your list. These are some universal ethical principles that more or less cut across cultures, communities, geographies, and spheres of operation and interaction. You can read them for yourself. Honesty, trustworthiness, loyalty, respect for others, adherence to the law, doing good and avoiding harm to others, and finally, accountability. Now, in this light, let us narrow down the understanding and awareness of professional or work ethics in the academic context. Almost every academic institution, big or small, will always have its own ethical code of conduct for teachers. However, in this section, I am going to share with you a few principles of professional ethics that you might find relevant in the academic context. Professional ethics in the academic realm expects the following from the teachers. The teacher needs to be just, fair, unbiased, and impartial. Now, what do we mean by this? As teachers, we play two roles almost alternatingly, that of teaching and that of evaluating. In both roles, we are susceptible to practicing positive or negative bias. We might have a tendency or could be predisposed to favoring students who are brighter and faster than others, and ignoring or becoming impatient with students that might require more time for understanding a concept. The second thing that the teacher needs to develop or practice is sensitivity. The teacher needs to be sensitive to student backgrounds, student needs, and student competences. Noted public intellectual and academician Susie Tharu, in her talk entitled Life and Death in the University, Some Reflections on Student Suicides, which she delivered at the Azim Premji University, draws attention to the discriminatory attitude often prevalent in universities owing to which students from economically and socially weaker sections of society and those coming from rural backgrounds feel marginalized and distressed. And this discrimination apparently is all pervading, practiced by teachers, students, and the administration. So the question is, what can we do as teachers? Well, we can ensure that we, at an individual level, do not discriminate and are sensitive and take into consideration the learner's background, which will obviously influence their learning competencies and inhibitions. Remedial or bridge classes can be conducted for these students, but often what such students need more than extra classes is empathy and acceptance. Since the teacher in many ways models behavior and attitude, if the teacher is encouraging and supporting, the students will soon internalize and emulate this attitude. The third principle of professional ethics is confidentiality. Students can be vulnerable. They can have problems which they might not be comfortable sharing with their peers or their family members. Sometimes they might want to open up to the teacher. Respecting the trust a student may show in a teacher is of utmost importance. Also, if a teacher has specific feedback or advice for a student, it is best for this to be given in person and in private. What transpires between the teacher and the student in mentoring and counseling sessions too should be confidential rather than something to be gossiped about in the staff room or laughed over in public. Non-authoritarianism. The teacher-student rapport can build and improve when the teacher is ready to step down from the pedestal and come out of the ivory tower of knowledge and wisdom he or she often encases herself in. An authoritative and domineering attitude might not go very well with adolescent students who are naturally rebellious. On the other hand, if the teacher displays an understanding and friendly attitude, sometimes using examples and illustrations or personalizing situations that is easy for the students to relate to, given their age group, it might make them more comfortable. The next quality is, which comes under professional ethics, would be not using students to one's own advantage. The teacher must desist from using the student to their own advantage. It is very common for college and university teachers to get a lot of work done from their students. I have witnessed this and have interacted on several occasions with teachers who take for granted their students' availability and their willingness to serve the teacher, without realizing that this can amount to exploitation. Safe, secure, and accepting environment is the next thing which the teacher needs to be responsible for under professional ethics. It is the teacher's responsibility to create a safe, secure, and unintimidating environment for the student so that the student is encouraged to attend and participate in classes. Insensitive chiding or correction of errors by the teacher may demotivate the student for good. A teacher should take care that humor or jokes too should not be at the expense of a student. There are any number of Bollywood movies made on this strained teacher-student dynamics and the unfair and unnecessary extent of authoritarianism and self-centeredness that teachers indulge in, and the extent to which teachers can invisibilize or be indifferent to student needs, competencies, and concerns. Some popular films that deal with this are Three Idiots, Tare Zameen Par, and Rough Book, to name a few. The next basic thing which the teacher needs to bear in mind is her commitment to the job. And for that, we need to ask ourselves this question, this very vital question. What is my primary duty as a teacher? Be loyal to your vocation, update yourself, upskill yourself. It is your duty to inspire in students and urge to learn, to know, to build further on the basis of the strong foundation that you lay for them.